her pre-conference notes and the questions she asked. And then what she did was she gave me both the handwritten and the typed. I don't necessarily need both. If you're going to type it up, just give me the typed, okay? So she put the heading at the top of this, and then here was her pre-conference script. And then following that, here were the standards, the standards document. And so she gave a few overview pages, and then here's where I know this is sideways, but you're not reading it. You're just seeing that she highlighted on the document what connected to the teacher's lesson. Okay, in the math standards. Because again, this is a way for you, especially if you're working with teachers who are outside your area of expertise, this is how you, in a job embedded way, expand your knowledge base by dipping into these standards. Because none of us have time to sit at home at night reading the standards documents, right? We also don't have Velcro to hang it to, but an observation helps us with that. So I'm trying not to make anyone ill, but I'm gonna scoot through this. And then what she put in next was the teacher's lesson plan. Okay, so the next couple pages are the teacher's lesson plan and all of the materials that she was going to be using. Then Jessica started supplying her data charts. So this is the data chart that was basically her script. So you'll see here, she did the time, what the teacher said and did, what the students were saying and doing. That's how she organized her scripting. And then she included her handwritten script as well, but she typed it all up for me, and I know for the teacher when she was talking to them. Okay, and then you remember in her post-conference that she gave the teacher these data charts to look at that showed her movement, but also the kind of feedback that she was giving different students. So Jessica included those charts, and they were amazingly neat, I will say. So she didn't redo these, she just included these. And remember, she took them at different points in the lesson. So this was the second discovery exercise. She showed the teacher the movements. And then this was the teacher movement and feedback during exercises 10 and 12. Okay, so those were all her data charts. So that was the first set of documents. Now her second set, hang on, I'm going back to the beginning. This is where in her second document, she included that summary statement. Again, we see the heading, and then here's where she described the class background. The class observed is a 7th grade advanced math class with 27 students. She gave that background, and then she provided the synopsis of the lesson. And then she moved into, here were the areas of strength. All right, and so she chose to do this in more like paragraph form. So she made a claim, and then she included the evidence afterwards. And then areas for continuous teacher improvement. You'll remember this from her post-conference. Formative assessment and wait time were the two areas she selected. And so she described that and also embedded feedback. And you'll remember she used some of this feedback in her post-conference. And some of this was separate from, or I would say in addition to, the data charts she had used with the teacher. Then Jessica also had some resources that she researched and gave to the teacher, which she had a checklist set up for the teacher, and she also had wait time resources, which are also included in subsequent pages of this a document that she turned in. And she called it her check-in. This is the accountability piece. You can use whatever terminology you want. I know the word accountability sometimes depending on what's going on in your district and the culture, people might bristle at that. So if you can modify it to fit your context, as long as what you're doing is holding yourself accountable. And so she says, I'm going to do a walkthrough the week of November 11th. And I'd like to schedule time to meet the week of the 18th, when the district provides you with the day to do your peer observations. And then they signed it. And then it's after that then Jessica included here's her post-conference notes. And basically her post-conference notes is her script for the post-conference. So here she tells herself, I'm going to go over the data charts. And then she included here for me some of what the teacher came up with during the conference. And then here's where her areas for continuous improvement. And then that she was going to provide the checklist and explain it. And what she was going to say about practice using the tool. And then she left me a note that the bell rang. And so she had to give the teacher the rubric. She didn't talk about the rubric. And I do want to say, I don't expect that you're going to, in your post-conference, because these teachers that you're working with are being gracious to share their precious time with you for this assignment. You do not have to walk through the rubric scores with the teacher during the post-conference. You want to be able to supply the rubric to the teacher at the post-conference because you want to have done it. The only time I would make an exception to that is if you did score a teacher not in the effective or highly effective range, and there's something that you really want them to work on and you want to connect that to the rubric score, you don't want to leave them with any surprises. So, and I know we've talked about that a little bit, but just a reminder and expectation around that. So here's what she did. Here's the checklist that Jessica had developed ahead of time. She used it in the post-conference. And this is the resource on culturally responsive practices that she worked with the teacher on very early on in the post-conference, if you remember. And then she also gave the teacher an article on wait time as a resource. Actually, it looks like she gave her two things. I forgot about that. So here's back to Carrie's question. Here's one way that you can do it. So Jessica made hard copy of the rubric, and then she hand wrote her evidence underneath the indicators, and highlighted the score. Okay, and then she just scanned it as a part of her PDF. And you'll see that in some areas she had more evidence than others. And as I'm going through, I know. So for instance, in this uses developments in pedagogy and content, she didn't have any evidence. So she just put NA here. And that's perfectly acceptable. And she ended up, this wasn't the whole rubric. Now that I'm thinking about it, she actually sent a third. Something happened with creating the PDF. So she ended up putting the rest of the rubric in a third document for me. So I get, sometimes there's snafus. And like I said, if I can figure it out, that's all that's important. So I'm going to switch to this particular student put everything in one document. She